Hey everybody, Alex here, otherwise known as YaBonks. Welcome to another episode of the YaBonks Show. And today I'm doing an AMA with MDB, and I have their CEO Danny here, who is recently fully doxed. If you saw on James Pelton's AMA from a few days ago. So this is really cool. I think I am one of the first people here on YouTube to get him live on video after James. So I'm really excited about that. And this is an interesting project that I've been told a lot about for the past month or two, at least, from other YouTubers that I'm friends with, as well as people in my own community saying, hey, have you checked out MDB yet? Did you buy any MDB? Did you buy any MDB Plus? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't had time to look into it. Well, I finally have looked into it, and I have Danny here to talk with me about it. I'm going to ask him a whole bunch of questions. And Danny, if you will bear with me for 1 sec, I just want to let my viewers know this is a sponsored video. I am paid for my time to do this. I'm doing, time before and after to make all this happen. And I got paid in stablecoins, so I'm not getting native tokens, all that stuff. But I am potentially considering buying this one relatively soon for my own personal portfolio. So just be aware of that. And, DeFi in general is super risky, yada, 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 not financial advice. None of this is. Do your own research. I think of this like a casino with gambling, all that stuff. Don't invest or put in more money than you're willing to lose into DeFi. I consider this whole space high risk. Danny uses the word safe a lot in his project and documentation, and I'm going to ask him all about that. So, Danny, do you just want to, say hello to the viewers and say maybe a little something about yourself before we get into MDB?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello, viewers. If you haven't seen me before, it's fantastic to be here. A little bit about me. I wish I had something more interesting to share. I'm probably too old to be in this industry, pushing 40, got kids, lots of sort of business experience behind me, working in big companies in the startup/investment space as well. Been an investor in DeFi for a while, and actually, we talk about the word safe. I can't wait to get onto that actually, because really, I suppose MDB is designed around trying to solve problems that we see within the DeFi space, and we put a lot of work into trying to work out why do most things not work, right? Ultimately, you look at an industry where most projects don't make it through the first 6 months. So we thought, okay, well let's try and tackle that problem, and ultimately that's what MDB is. And as a team, we're quite mature. You can see I'm from the UK, we come with a lot of life and business experience, and I think maturity probably goes a long way. Certainly, it's a very high pressure place to run an organization, and that's us. We're very ethical. You can't call yourself make DeFi better and have high expectations of yourself in terms of your behavior and your practices. Also, we don't we don't bullshit people as well. Actually, if we don't agree, then we'll be very clear, and I think you've got to be very strong-willed in this market. So yeah, fantastic to be here. Really looking forward to the next 60 minutes.
Well, thank you for that. And I guess that was my first question is, what does MDB mean? I've heard multiple different explanations for what that initialism or acronym stands for.
Yeah, it's a good question. And look, I suppose the first token in MDB is called MDB, which stands for $1 Million Baby. The ecosystem is Make DeFi Better, which is the organisation and our business and what we're committed to doing. The token, it sounds like $1 Million Baby. It sounds like a bit of almost like a bit of a degen name, but it comes from like a really solid place actually. And it was we designed a protocol where we wanted the mathematics to work in a certain way that ultimately it could make lots of people millionaires, rather than being a system that a few people do well, and when those people sell, everybody else is wrecked basically. And so we designed a system where I think if we did like a times 2 or 3 from where we are, we'll create our first $1 Million Baby. But actually, if that person went, right, I'm out, and they sold, then the way the protocol is designed, it would cause a dump on the chart, but actually you would reduce supply significantly very quickly because of the insurance fund that you have as well. And then the process carries on. And actually it then speeds up the process longer term because of the way the mechanics of the protocol work. So that's where the $1 million baby comes from. It's actually because we'd love to, rather than one person making 20 million, we'd love to see 100 people making $1 million on a regular basis.
Well, that would be awesome. I hope you make me a millionaire if I buy some of this myself, because that's why I'm out here, as I'm sure everybody else is.
You're going to sleep. You're doing YouTube videos giving people advice, and you've been sleeping on MDB. And we've done a ×3 in the last 3 weeks.
I know, and I'm quite sore about that. Look at the chart right now. I've been looking for an entry point the past few days, and I'm just like, what is happening, you guys? Chill out a little bit.
It's early days as well. It's early days. We're undervalued.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, like probably everybody else out here, I'm out here to try to make some money. I'm as much as I don't want to talk about my vices, I am a gambler. I'm a degenerate gambler, as they say out here. I'm a degen. So I'm willing to throw a couple bucks at whatever I think is not going to just immediately rug pull me in the hopes of making a quick gain. And we'll get into your APYs here. They're a lot less degen than I'm used to. And maybe that's why you weren't on my radar right away. At least, like I said, I was told about MDB plenty of times from people I highly respect. And they said, hey, look into this, check it out. And I'm just like, I'm so busy, I'm working 20-hour days. I'm sure you can understand that. And I'm like, I'm out here grinding, trying to make this whole DeFi YouTube dream work. And it's a lot more work than I had anticipated. But so with that being said, so MDB, the token, stands for $1 Million Baby. And the project name MDB stands for Make DeFi Better. Did I understand that correctly?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. All right, good. And now you've already touched on it a little bit, but could you give me an elevator pitch for MDB, the project as a whole?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And look, if I think about our journey and what kind of brought us to this point with MDB, we look. I'll probably answer one of your other questions at the same time. I think we looked at the market and we said, okay, well, if you want something to be successful, why don't you try and work out why most things fail to start off with? And what we recognise, like number one, is like security, responsible owners. So we believe that we can tick that box clearly. And then also protocols are heavily dependent on new liquidity coming into them quite often. So we wanted to design a system which, if nobody ever bought and sold MDB again, then the protocol would just eat itself anyway over time and cause this acceleration in price. And the more people that come along, then you're just going to speed that process up, and actually buying and selling is good for the protocol. And the more people and the less people that come along, then it just takes a bit longer. So that's what we try to tackle. Another problem, actually, and I've been both sides of the fence in this. In fact, I've been in relatively small projects and found myself in a really lucky position where I suppose been considered a whale. And then I remember I've been really engaged in the community, and I've looked at my wallet and thought, well, if I dump now, I'm just going to make life really hard for a lot of other people. And that was a part of DeFi that really doesn't make sense as well. So we took all of those things into account. And so really MDB as an ecosystem, as a product to that, we're very open about the relationship between risk and reward. MDB is relatively low risk in crypto terms, but has huge upside potential. But then we've got things like MDB Plus, which is as low risk as you can basically get in crypto, but has good upside potential. But it won't times 10 by the end of the year because the risk is extremely low. So we want to talk to investors like adults and help them make decisions. And actually, the last piece in our ecosystem will be much more degen. It'll be more high risk, much higher reward potential as well, because the two come together.
You've got my attention. Yeah.
People are, to be honest, it's the most asked question. It's called Infinity, and it's always been in the roadmap since the very start. And we recognise we've got this like very sort of methodical system, and we've got these safe assets. And then probably the last bit of the human psyche, especially in crypto, that we need is that sort of more degen risk, high reward play, and really that's what MDB is about. It's about respecting that sometimes we wake up one morning and we want safety, sometimes we want to take a bit of risk in our investments, and it's really an ecosystem where you can come and get a bit of any of that and take your chances, but ultimately, that the investors win at the end of the day. As a group, the investors win, and that's what we're committed to.
Cool. Okay. Well, you mentioned that there is a high upside reward and very low risk to MDB, and you speculated a potential 10x within, by the end of the year. So, with that being said, could you explain to me how does the MDB token itself work exactly?
Yeah. So maybe if I go back to the start, what we did is we also recognise that one of the largest reasons for failure in DeFi is that, as soon as you give someone a token, you put a value on it, they have an expectation that they're going to make money on that value, right? That's why you're doing it. And what people do is they raise a load of money. Some of that money then goes on operational expenses, sometimes in crazy sums, right? I would. Yeah, it's been a real eye opener. Maybe it's a whole different AMA talking about my experiences in DeFi.
We've had private conversations, video chatting, you and I, about this topic, because obviously it's something we're both passionate about, just in the space in general, aside from MDB. So we should probably do something like that, just you and I talking about the space as a whole. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Please carry on.
No, that'd be a cool podcast. And maybe talking about what I see, because my view of the industry today versus what it was 6 months ago is so different. My expectations, not that I have time to be an investor in other projects, but if I was today, then my expectations of projects will be completely different because I've seen so much. But back to the mechanics. So one of the things that we recognise is that you get this like capital flight before you've even started. Now it's okay because the number's in your wallet, but the true backing for that number just is wherever. If I'm going to be cynical, but so we said, okay, well, the best thing to do is not start off in the red. So we went out, we did a raise, and every single cent that we raised went into the protocol. So, I come from a world where if you believe in your business idea, you sell it to other people, they invest in you, but you also put skin in the game. So we covered our startup costs. We put all of the raise into the protocol, and actually it's fared us very well. That's why, projects have died, the market's gone to hell. And ultimately, because we took that money and we split it 5 parts trust fund, 1 part liquidity pool, and then we launched the token. It means that the liquidity pool has this huge insurance policy.
Is that what I'm seeing here on your homepage where it says liquidity
exactly.
back 555%?
Yeah, exactly. And we were 500% at launch, so I think it's going to come down slightly. It sort of updates on a daily basis, so that will come down slightly because the price has really pumped. So you'll see liquidity backed probably drop to somewhere like mid 400s because there's been such a sort of like a jump in the amount of liquidity. But what that means is that if the price crashes, then 2 things can happen. One, obviously, as you see at the bottom of our chart in more difficult days, the trust fund can have a massive impact on the LP, which then can help the chart recover. But it's not really about that. It's not about chart or price management. It's about financial fundamentals. And actually, what MDB does and what the Phoenix does is it accumulates supply when it's good value to do so. So by then accumulating supply, it can burn it. It reduces the circulating supply. The protocol is more healthier, it's growing, and there's less tokens in circulation. So if you take the total funds in the protocol and divide it by every token in circulation, really that is the sort of true measure of health, and risk as well, right? So and that's ultimately what MDB is. So on the downside, to be fair, when we're at that bottom of that curve, you can see there, the market cap was like nearly 70% backed at one point. Absolutely insane. So every man and his dog's looking at our chart going, where's my entry point? But your entry point, like the best one in the world is when we dip. And But clearly, it's the opposite of everything we're conditioned to believe, right, in crypto. So when it's down, you're like, oh, it's the end of the world. And actually, when we go down, our protocol gets even safer. And when we go up, the value in your wallet is good, but the gap between market cap and funds in the protocol stretches, and that's your risk factor. And we're very open about that as well. And that's
not many people talk about that, and that's interesting because obviously a hot topic lately has been these, the discrepancy between market cap and the value in the liquidity pool. And obviously there are other funds outside of the liquidity pool that most protocols have. Like a lot of people have an insurance fund, and you said your trust fund doubles as an insurance fund as well, right? So if there was like one of these black swan event type bank runs where everybody came home to roost all at once, would your trust fund kick in to support that liquidity?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to be careful, right? Because responsible management, you see that line going down there on the chart on the screen right now. It would be really irresponsible in a market where people are just looking to leave to just push in that insurance fund, right? You can only spend money once. And,
right.
And so, yeah, it's an insurance fund, but it also has to be used in a really responsible way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're backed 500%, your liquidity is backed over 550%, I don't ever see really where, like, I mean, what's the worst case? You take 1/5 of that. If for some reason, like, I don't know, I'm just looking at the math here. You got a 7 million market cap, 420 liquidity. So what's that times 5? So I don't know. I don't think, but that's why they call them black swans, right? It's a super rare thing. Like I guess the biggest example is like Terra Luna and UST, that whole thing. Everybody started panicking, made a bank run, and that was an algorithmically pegged stablecoin. Didn't have anything.
That's because they're leveraging capital as well. Like we don't do that. So we don't leverage any capital. If you look at our stable asset, I saw a comment yesterday. I think it was on one of James Pelton's tweets. Someone said, "Oh, the last high APY stable asset I saw." He tweeted about MDB Plus. Sorry to shill other YouTubers, but
no, James is a good friend of mine. He actually, if it wasn't for him, I might not have gotten my start in YouTube, because when I first started, I had like 10 subscribers. I was just uploading AMAs for a project I was a volunteer moderator in. I love this project. I ended up getting screwed there, but I reached out to James and I'm like, hey, do you have any tips for me as a YouTuber? I don't know anything about YouTube. I'm a software guy. And he's like, he gave me all these tips. He even let me, I asked him if I could interview him about how to be a YouTuber and how he got so successful doing it. And it's on my YouTube channel way early on. I have this awesome AMA with James about his life, how he got successful in YouTube, and it helped me a ton. And since then, I've been applying some of the things he's said, and my channel's just grown basically exponentially since then. So I always ask James when I need help with something out here. I'm like, hey, James, in your experience, what do you think about this? How should I handle it? He always has great advice. So, I appreciate that guy.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. But just so I keep it sort of a long story short, somebody commented and said, well, the last high APY stable token was Anchor. I haven't seen them in a while. But the difference is that they were leveraging, and if you look at MDB Plus, we don't leverage. All the BUSD that backs the circulating supply is locked in the contract, and you can see it on BSC scan anytime. And the only way you can get that out is by redeeming the token for the BUSD. That is the only way that BUSD can come out. So I appreciate people's concerns and nervousness, but we try and play things extremely safe. So are you on? Are you?
Here we go. Let me zoom in. Let me open this up so people can see. So on MDB Plus, you said the BUSD is in the contract, and I do see it here. $504,000 plus BUSD in the MDB Plus contract. So that's cool, man. Good to see that. In.
There's only one way of getting it out, and that's redeeming the token. And when you redeem the token, it's destroyed. And when you put BUSD in via BNB, then it's minted. So there's always 100% of the circulating supply plus $1 of BUSD locked in the contract at all times. So when you safe, because I know that's one of your favorite words for today's call, that's what we mean by safe. I could get a piano could drop on my head right now and it would have no impact in people being able to get their BUSD out.
Very interesting. And just so if anybody's looking at these numbers, it says market cap $570,000, and the contract obviously is $504,000. However, the value of MDB Plus is actually above $1. It's $1.17, and that makes up that discrepancy there between $570,000 market cap versus $504,000 in tokens. So you have it backed to where if MDB Plus is worth, if its price is $1, then it's 1-for-1 backed, right? And if it's above that, that just means there's so much demand for it that it goes even above sometimes. Is that correct?
Let me explain, actually, because this is a really common question. So you don't actually, so the reason you've got a difference between the number of the market cap there and what you can see in the contract is because what you're looking at now, the chart is being fed from an LP, and the LP is on PancakeSwap. So there's actually two funds that make up that total number of MDB Plus. There's one which is an LP on PancakeSwap, and the other is all the BUSD that's in the contract. And those two combined both make up the market cap. You don't actually need the LP on PancakeSwap. The contract can function purely without it. If you don't have something on a DEX, you can't have a chart. And actually, you get the absolute accurate price from the contract at any point. But if you want something visual and people like pretty colours, so they can look at it and say, oh, look, it only goes up over time, then you have to have an LP on PCS. And that's why you see this up and down, because if I bought interacting with the contract, it's really clean, there's no slippage. Whereas if I send BNB into the pool on PCS, then you get a bit of slippage, which is why you get this variation. Then you have to have a bot that evens out between the contract price and the chart. So that's why it looks like that. The LP, as the traditional LPs, it for MDB Plus, purely just acts as a gateway for people that want to use a DEX to interact with the contract.
Very cool. Great explanation. That helps me understand it more. So that 1-for-1 backing is split between the contract and what you have to put in PancakeSwap liquidity pool.
Exactly. There you go. You got it. Yeah.
And that's why you have the slippage. Okay. Good to know. That helps me out a lot. If anybody has any further questions about that, check out MDB's Discord server. It's very active, and people can help you out in there if you have more specific questions on the technicalities of how that contract and liquidity work. But I think that was a great explanation. So can you explain the difference between MDB and MDB Plus?
Yeah, fundamentally different, right? So MDB is it has high upside potential, but it has some risk because it has an AMM backing it. But it has some risk, but it also has then this big insurance fund.
AMM, is that automated market maker?
Yes, exactly. Okay. And if anyone wants to Google AMM curve, you'll see the way an AMM works mathematically is that lots of buys go in and it gets steeper going up, and that's why something moons very quickly and then seems to come back very fast. But then when a token's at the end of its life, it just curves out very flat, actually, because of various other things that are pretty boring. But yeah, so MDB is on an AMM, which means it has the moon potential, but it can also go backwards as well. So it has high upside potential, but it has some risk. Whereas in crypto terms, MDB Plus is a stable backed asset. You buy it, it appreciates, but it's not going to 100x. Well, it will one day. It's just it will probably be sort of in a nursing home by then, and that's. But also, it mathematically in the contract it cannot go down in value. So they're very different.
Okay, so MDB Plus in general will always steadily rise in value. Is this correct? So
it can only go up.
That's after you factor out the slippage we see, right? So the actual value you're talking about is kind of a time-weighted average price.
Yeah, I'll show you if you like. Go back to the MDB Plus contract. This is quite interesting.
Sure.
If you go back to the MDB Plus contract, go down, and if you go to contract, Yeah.
Do
And
you
then
want to look at the
you go
code?
to read contract,
Okay.
top left, and then go down to number 5. You can see actually that price there cannot go down. It's impossible.
And right here, when I click it and it goes to the GUI the unit converter, if you take out, I think it's the 18
decimals. Yeah.
decimals, you get 1.1565. So that's the actual true price when you factor out the slippage that you see from PancakeSwap.
You don't even. We actually tell people don't use PCS to buy and sell it. If you send BNB to the contract, you get MDB Plus back instantly. If you send MDB Plus to yourself, just do that. Don't send it to the contracts, you'll burn it. If you send MDB Plus to yourself, BUSD will appear instantly. You can just interact at that contract price with no slippage.
So you probably have a custom transfer function in the contract. So when somebody transfers it, if they transfer it, so if I were to transfer this to another person's wallet instead of just my own, would it turn into BUSD when it hits your wallet, or would it recognize that I'm transferring it to somebody else and give it?
There is a transfer tax of 0.75% if you transfer between wallets. So if you transfer, you will pay a tax. You will lose some of your supply, and that supply gets burnt, and so then there's less MDB Plus.
But the MDB Plus I send to somebody else will show up in their wallet as MDB Plus. But if I send it to myself, it will convert it to BUSD.
Yep.
So and I will look into the code of that because that's super interesting, and I already understand how you can write the code to do that. That's very interesting functionality that you've implemented here. Very interesting. All right. And if you send it to the smart contract, the contract just burns it. So do not do that. You will just lose your tokens. No BUSD, right?
Yeah, well, BUSD or MDB Plus, people contact us and they're like, I sent $100 of BUSD to the contract. Can you get it back for me? And it's like, well, seeing as you put it in the LP and the only way of getting it out of the LP is selling MDB Plus, you basically just shared that out with everyone that holds MDB Plus. So don't do that.
Good to know. So there's no recovery function for that smart contract to get those tokens back out. If you accidentally transfer them to the contract, it becomes a property of everybody else.
There is for other tokens, but if you send MDB Plus or BUSD because the way the contract's constructed, then it will just be shared out between your fellow compadres, and they'll be very happy and grateful.
Good to know. Now, if I go to your launch app here, it brings up your Xenia financial suite, and this, I'm guessing, is where you can buy MDB Plus through the contract itself, not through PancakeSwap, right?
Yeah, you can do what I just said, but simple ways go to Xenia, and that basically is a UI that sits on the front of that swapper function.
Cool, awesome. Maybe at the end of this, I'll buy my first little bit so everybody can see how it works. Because like I said, I've been looking to start a position, and I try to dollar cost average. So maybe I'll throw a couple bucks in here just to see what happens.
You can't dollar cost average MDB Plus because it only goes up.
Man, when you say stuff like that, I'm like, I don't believe you, because that's such a radical statement, right?
It's just mathematical. Trust me, it can only, the contract price can only go up. It's an impossibility to go down.
All right, so that's actually my next question that I wrote here. By the way, I typed up a whole bunch of questions. I've got a million questions for Danny, but obviously we're probably limited for time at some point. But I'm going to try to get through the most important ones. So that's one of them.
Be quick fire. Put me under pressure.
Okay. How is it possible that an asset cannot depreciate in value?
Well, because you pay a very small tax in, a very small tax out, that stays in the LP. And if you mint the supply when you buy into it and you destroy the supply when you leave, then it means that the LP is always equal to or greater than the circulating supply, simply.
Okay.
And the LP is always growing. If everybody sold and you just bought, you would be a very happy man, because you would get 0.25% of $564,000.
Interesting. Explain it one more time, Because I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So
imagine you come to me, right, and you say, "Hey, I want to join this club," and I'm like, "Cool, give me $1,"
Yeah.
and I take 75 cents off of you for joining the club, and that goes in the pot, right? And that pot is shared out between all of the club members. Now, when you sell, and this is happening, lots of times with lots of different people. We're using MDB Plus as a utility. We use it in our LP. Other projects are using it now, and so that all drives volume through the token. So it's not just you, but to keep it simple. And now, when you say, "Look, I want to leave now," and so I'm going to give you that token back, and I want my share of the LP, you get your share of the LP, but minus 0.25. So your journey in and out has left 1% in the pot for people that are still there. Yeah.
Okay.
So whether you're coming in or leaving, the amount in the pot is always greater than the amount that people have got in their wallets. It's mathematically impossible for it to be any other way.
Interesting.
And you're looking at me like, this is a scam.
Yeah, I like that. That's interesting. But on top of that, you're also promising an APY here of 50.
And what is an APY? You go on BuySwap, they go, 200 bazillion APY because they've launched a new token, and then, but it's always a measurement over a period of time. So we give 2 periods of time, so it's relative, right? So there's no point in just saying, "Hey, look, this is lifetime." So on the left, you can see that since it launched about 10 weeks ago, it's if you extrapolated its growth over a 52-week period, that's the APY. And then on the right, you've got a 7-day period. So if you extrapolated how much it's grown in the last 7 days over 52 weeks, then that's what you've got. That's how much you would get over a year.
And do I need to stake it to get this APY?
So it's like having a farm, and it's like stable farming, really. And I'm saying this. I've decided I'm saying this in every call that I do now. By the way, if you got stables anywhere, MDB Plus is performing 13 times what you would get in a BUSD farm on PCS, right? So just whatever you're doing now, stop it. Stop the kids. Like, knock off work for an hour. Get out of those crappy farms. Go into MDB Plus and start making some paper for your money. At the moment, inflation means you're going backwards about 7% annually. So, do something good for yourself today, and just get your safe money into MDB Plus and get your play money into MDB.
Now, does that APY is this like auto compounding? Is this like a positive auto rebasing kind of mechanism where you will get more MDB Plus tokens in your wallet?
You're conditioned.
I am.
You are conditioned. It's like, where's my rebases? No, to be fair, the value is appreciating all the time, right? So you can see there, we launched it. Long story, we won't go through it today, but it launched at 1.0621 10 weeks ago. Now the price of each token is 1.157. What that means is, if we take all of the liquidity locked in the contract and divide it by every MDB Plus token in supply, then there will be $1.157.7 cents in liquidity per token in circulation right now. It's as simple as that.
So it started out, you said, about 1.
But it starts at 1, but we did some internal testing, so it launched at 1.0621.
Okay, and now it's up to 1.15, and that is where these values are calculated just in the stable coin value for MDB Plus. Now, over time, if this continues over the next 52 weeks from this point in time today, if I were to buy, if it continued at this rate, I'd be looking at 57.69%. And this APY is driven by buy and sell volume because of that 0.75% buy tax and 0.25% sell tax. Is that correct?
Exactly. And it has lots of other utilities as well. So, for instance, we've used it in our NFT mint. We're using it as an LP backing. Other projects are starting to use it. So we work with EMP, fantastic teams. Shout out to those guys. Our first big flagship partner using MDB Plus as part of their LP. We're just about to announce 2 more partners. And our goal is to get to sort of short-term 1 million a day volume through MDB Plus, and then to 5 million a day volume, and ultimately we've got much bigger plans after that. And so by using it as a utility, it's not just about me and you buying it and holding it, which actually isn't the greatest for the APY, because just sitting on it isn't great. Using it like a currency is what's best for it. So we're finding more and more ways of MDB Plus being used as a utility effectively, which drives up the APY.
So you're telling me that I noticed that you have a DeFi as a service. It's kind of a trendy buzzword in this industry right now, DAAS. You might see that everywhere right now, as people are offering kind of their own unique services out here in DeFi in this new sector, saying, hey, we can offer you this. So one of your DeFi as a service offerings is your MDB Plus stablecoin that's ever appreciating, theoretically, right? That they can use as I have to because I can't read the future. Allegedly. So I would love it if that's the case, by the way, because I'm probably going to DCA in and maybe take a position. But you're saying you
can't
offer
DCA something that doesn't go down in value. Anyway, go on.
How about I will convert a portion of my stable coins, because I try to diversify my stable coins as well. I try to diversify everything, because as we've seen, stable coins sometimes aren't as stable as people think. So I even like to spread those out. But you offer DeFi as a service. You offer this MDB Plus to other projects to use as the value token in their liquidity pairs. So if they've got EMP's native token is going to be paired with MDB Plus, you say, then as we've seen with BNB pairs, when the market goes down and BNB goes down, the value of that native token gets hit with impermanent loss, right? Now, there's also part of impermanent loss is if that value token goes up in price, it pulls up the price of the native token as well. Now, with MDB Plus being a stable coin, normally you pick a stable coin so there's no impermanent loss to the downside to kind of protect people in bearish times.
So there is some upside. There just can't be downside.
Well, I'm not talking about MDB Plus quite yet. So I'm saying anybody who picks a stable coin like BUSD or something to pair their native token with, that's great in bear markets, theoretically, because it's supposed to never go down because of impermanent loss. And then it's based on just the performance of the native token itself. Now with MDB Plus, you're saying the only impermanent loss is to the upside. So I don't know if the correct term is impermanent gain. But just so people understand, impermanent loss can be down or up. So when it goes up, you're just slowly going to be pulling up the value of that native token, assuming that native token stays, same in price. You'll actually pull it up in price just from MDB Plus appreciating. Is that right? And it should never go down theoretically.
Yeah, exactly. But there's also, the markets are always at different positions. So we've got, we were the first customer of Synergy Solutions, which is our B2B applications. And we paired 40% of our LP to MDB Plus. That's why you had that sexy looking chart on the screen. Amongst other things, one is that we've had 40% of our LP for the last 8 weeks has been appreciating at an average of 40% annually. Rather than going down with the value of BNB. So, and we would change that, right? So if BNB went probably $400+, then we would probably move more across to MDB Plus to lock in some of that value. If it went $600-700, you'd probably lock in maybe 80-90% new LP. The same, most people don't, if I'm honest, when BNB was under 200, personally, I would have cut down the amount of MDB Plus we had so that we could take some of the upside, more of the upside of BNB, because we get 60% of the impact up or down at the moment because of that split. People lose their minds. BNB was under 200 and people were like, predicting the end and it'll go to 75 and stuff like this. So whilst I had the stomach for that move, some of our community didn't, and I didn't want to be responsible for them literally having a heart attack. So we just kept it where it is at the moment.
And I'm guessing some of these dips were probably when the market kind of tanked and when the whole Terra Luna thing.
the for us, like there's the launch, then there's working through the whitelisters that say that they love you and they're there for life. They're long-term investors.
Yeah, sure they are.
Yeah. Part of the problem in the industry, to be honest, they're full of shit. I'll call it out. And you just work through those people. And then once we got through those fraudsters who masquerade as investors, then you can see the protocol really started to do its work. And actually, 24 hours into the Terra Luna scandal, we were still pumping up. But it just got too much. We were a top gainer on CMC that day, I remember, and the whole market was like blood red. Then it got too much, so it went down. And then you can see, again, we built really good momentum quite steadily, so it was really sustainable. But then the big market crash. So this sort of like gain that we've seen over the last few weeks really it's our third run at it. And it's been two sort of like big events in the market that have sort of like took the wind out of our sails previously. But the way our protocol works, on the way down, our protocol becomes stronger. So actually, like the phoenix rising for the flames, we'll come out of it stronger than we went into any sort of issue in the market.
Now that brings me to one of my other questions. What is the Phoenix that I keep hearing about? And this is different than Phoenix Plus, right?
Yeah, Phoenix Plus is just a gamified version of MDB Plus where it's higher tax and higher APY, but there's a little bit of risk in there. So it's fairly straightforward. But the Phoenix itself, I suppose, is a metaphor for the protocol delivering liquidity into the LP from the trust fund. And the Phoenix, the Phoenix is absolutely obsessed with burning as much supply as possible. She wants YaBonks to be a rich man in a couple of years' time. So what she wants to do is remove as much supply as possible, so that sweet fund is shared out by as few tokens as possible, and that's ultimately what it's there to do. So the Phoenix really is just a metaphor. Although we've then built NFTs, they're all Phoenix themed, and I suppose developed its own personality.
Okay, so that's basically is the Phoenix a separate smart contract from MDB, or is it built into it?
Yeah, no, the Phoenix is deployed manually at the moment because it's, this hasn't been done in this way before. So, we're learning through the process. We learned a lot over the last 3 months, actually. And I think we've started to really deliver it in the right way. So there's a set of rules within the protocol that it works by. You can see, like, here, if our market cap went, times 3 from where it is today, then the Phoenix would become locked because it doesn't want to support the chart and then create greater risk ultimately. Whereas where the Phoenix has been unlocked completely since we launched, actually, and it works against those rules. Basically, it's looking at the ratios of funds versus the market cap.
Okay, cool. Now I see it's talking about the trust fund, and we've touched on this. I will pull it up here for my next question. So what is this trust fund, and how does it support MDB, MDB Plus, and the other tokens, or I guess the other vehicles? I don't know. Is Phoenix Plus an actual token itself, or is it?
Yeah, Phoenix Plus is the token, but both Phoenix Plus and MDB Plus are self-supporting assets. They've got a stable LP in both of those tokens.
So they don't even need the trust fund support, right?
No.
Okay.
If anything, MDB Plus offers it's actually utility for our protocol because we're the largest holder of MDB Plus, and we get to enjoy the best returns for a stable backed asset in the industry, which obviously helps our trust fund, which helps our buying power if the opportunity arises as well. So the trust fund is built from the raise, and then also a portion of taxes feed into the trust fund, and it's invested strategically across different risk profiles. Probably no surprise at the moment that a large amount of the trust fund is in stable backed assets, like a lot, like $600,000-$700,000 worth, and then we've got some exposure to BNB. Naturally, we've got some exposure to ETH. And then we've got a few sort of high-risk tokens that we bought that were, if I'm honest, it was largely marketing, because, if you put $35,000 into Seifu, then Brian was a legend and retweeted us, and that got us loads of exposure. So we put some money in his protocol. Quite frankly, it's probably better than doing a video with 10 YouTubers getting that sort of exposure pre-launch. So there's a bit of method to the madness.
Awesome, and that makes absolute sense. I think partnerships out here are a great marketing vector because you get exposure to an actual community of people that are real participants in DeFi projects, right? Yeah. You always run the risk of, as I've learned as a YouTuber, some of my fellow YouTubers might not have the same engagement levels or the same viewership demographics that are interested in this stuff. They might have a spread across different topics, or some of the other kind of, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, so I'm not going to name any names or anything, but there are people who use bot farms for views, for subscribers, and I've seen other projects tell me, hey, I got screwed. I hired so-and-so to make a video, and it turned out it was all bot views. We didn't see one real person who said they watched the video or something like that. So getting like Seifu, like they have a very a very intense community. As I've seen, I've been in their server and stuff, and a lot of my audience is in Seifu as well. So and they're hardcore, like, if Brian is talking about MDB or something like that, those people will probably listen, and you'll have thousands of actual hardcore DeFi degens who will, potentially participate. So that's an interesting method there for your high risk spread in the trust fund. Now, in the low risk section of your trust fund, you said you're the biggest holder, like your protocol is the largest holder of MDB Plus itself.
Yeah.
Is that held in the trust fund here in the low risk section?
Correct. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And then medium risk, like altcoins, BNB, ETH, maybe Bitcoin as well. Okay. And this is what goes to support MDB token, what we see here.
Yeah, it's ultimately it's about an appreciating fund and depreciating supply, and eventually those two things just, if I keep tipping money into a pot and I keep reducing the number of people that have got access to that pot, then everybody in the room's getting richer, right? And that's the basic fundamentals of our protocol.
Now, since the trust fund is invested in a diversified portfolio that, ideally is going to appreciate in value as a whole, I noticed that the taxes for MDB some of it goes back into the trust fund, so you have a larger principal amount to invest to generate more interest, which then compounds back into the trust fund, giving you an even bigger capital principal to generate even more interest, and it has that cyclic compounding effect. And then if that's used to back the liquidity at somewhere around a 5-to-1 ratio, then, assuming the price of BNB doesn't, drop off a cliff or anything like that, which I don't think it's going to, do that. I think 200 that we saw was.
But we only get 60% of that cliff anyway because we're hedged 40% on MDB Plus. So
there you go. So that's interesting. I like that strategy. It's not as super degen as I'm used to with some of the. I don't want to say Ponzonomics all the time, because not all of them I don't think technically qualify, at least in my jurisdiction. It's unregulated, undefined stuff. I think a lot of it has to do with how people market their projects and things like that, terms they use. But some of the projects, like, I don't know, some of these, some of the miners and stuff like that are straight like degen Ponzi's, in my opinion. You can still make money off them, obviously, so I don't want to bash them too hard. But if you make money off that stuff, But this is much less. This is like almost like a hedge fund that is compounding and growing itself using.
But it's not just the fund, though. We have lots of external revenue streams as well outside of the fund, and that's pushing up those ratios, and then it's deployed into the contract as well. So that supports, the buying and burning of the supply, which is why we've burnt nearly 105 million tokens out of 1 billion in our first 3 months.
Wow! So you've burnt over 10% of your max supply.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you think you're going to keep pace, or with that?
It naturally slows down when the price is higher. No, but saying that though, if the volume carried on like it has been the last 24 hours, of volume, has been at peak level for a while, sort of 200k plus. Yeah. If we had a month like that, even if the price didn't move, the trust fund would just be growing and growing. So and I think it's just all about trust fund, and that's when it's about trust fund versus market cap rather than liquidity. Actually, if your market cap is 100 million and your trust fund's a few percent of it, then you'd be in a very different scenario where it'd be a very slow burn process. So it's important for us that we grow sustainably and keep a connection between the two. That's why we talk about times 10 end of year, because we believe we can do that with the right volume and then have a fund that is of a certain ratio so that it actually supports it from that point. So it's not times 10 down 80%, it's times 10. There's still some downside risk, but lots more upside risk still. That's our goal.
Awesome. And do you have strategies to manage, like, I know the liquidity is kind of backed by that trust fund and everything, but in terms of, like, we kind of touched on this already, your whale management strategy, or like how you handle large sell-offs, your strategy is kind of, it helps the protocol and then it quickly kind of recovers.
Well, if you've got $100,000 worth of MDB today, if you sold it for a start, you'd see some price impact. In addition to that, you would pay a 15% tax, which is then largely fed into the trust fund. And then because you drop the price of the token, it means the trust fund can then accumulate, the Phoenix can accumulate a larger amount of supply at that point. So there's two things that happen. One, there's a liquidity injection, and two, there's less tokens in supply significantly, as well as the trust fund has just been fed by you leaving the protocol. So as long as you keep those ratios in the right sort of operating space, then ultimately it looks after itself.
Very cool. I am liking how this sounds. I need to stay as impartial and objective as possible, but also I'm not going to hide it if I like a project and I decide I want to take it for my own, take a position for my own personal portfolio, because I'm trying to make money out here too. So anybody who hates on YouTubers who also do DeFi, like, I love DeFi. That's why I do this.
You got bills to pay? It's
bro,
disgusting. You're
so
on
many
YouTube,
bills.
Right? Do you just not go into Starbucks and they just go, don't worry about it, YaBonks, free of charge?
No, I buy bulk instant coffee, the budget of the budget. Bro, I'm over here drinking straight Sanka. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know
I'm like in a nursing home over here, bro.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Drinking my Sanka and eating my lemon cakes while I play bridge. Anyway.
Yeah. It's a tough ride, DeFi. I think if you're a project owner, even some YouTubers, the way people talk about it, it's almost like you dehumanize. Like, okay, so you're in this position and people are listening to you, so therefore you're not a human with needs and ambitions, and it's a crazy world.
I agree, and it goes the same with project owners as well. A lot of people think a team shouldn't get paid out here. I've heard people say stuff like this, and it's like, well, if they're not getting paid, they're just gonna go back to their corporate jobs or their whatever jobs they have to make their living.
They should be getting paid if they're creating money for other people, though, and I think that's a fair estimate. I think, my advice would be to anyone, if someone's got money and they're raising your money to start a project, and if they don't believe enough in their own project to put skin in the game, then don't invest in it. That'd be my advice. So I think there's a certain level of expectation that I think is reasonable, but everybody's got to pay their bills, right?
Yeah, I think reasonable is a good term because you can't do everything yourself. Even if somebody is super rich, comes into this space, starts a project, they still got to pay moderators, developers, marketing expenses, and all that. So that's actually one of my questions: is how are you and the team compensated for MDB as a project?
Yeah, it's quite a hot topic actually, because we've resisted taking any. I remember reading years ago that what the big challenges of entrepreneurs, and I remember you don't see a lot of it in this space, if I'm honest, but I remember reading that one of the things is small business owners paying themselves, and I remember thinking that's really odd, and I never really got it. And then we set this up, and we obviously used our own money to get the project off the ground, and then we were like, well, we'll think about salaries, and we talked as a team and said, I'm taking a massive pay cut to do it, but I'm investing my time in a greater goal, so I'm comfortable doing that. So we said, we'll talk about it when we launch, and then we just kept dancing around the topic, if I'm honest. And then there was a crash in the market, and now you're like, well, actually, it makes sense for us to try and accumulate operational funds because you don't know how long it's going to go on for, so you want contingency. And we're lucky enough to be in a position where we're not completely, it helps, but we're not financially dependent on the project in the short term. So, so we, a bit of news. We've just paid ourselves our first salary after 4 months.
Congratulations! That's a big milestone, honestly. To have that means ideally that means you've started a profitable business, right?
Look, I think. Actually, I took my salary and I put it back into our farm, actually, because I thought, I believe in the project. Then why wouldn't I invest it back into the business? So that's what I've done. And
so, have you? Does that mean you have your own personal position in in these tokens and in the staking?
Yeah, I took it was literally in the last couple of days. I'm sure someone will do some big expose and say, "Hey, look, there's some money that moved from this wallet," so I took my own personal salary, and I just what I did, which is a great strategy, by the way, especially if you're massively up, is I took some MDB. I sold half the MDB for BNB, then paired the MDB and BNB into the farm. And I'm happy. I believe in this business, and actually, I'd rather reinvest into the business long term. So yeah, absolutely. We've obviously got team allocations as well, but we've got a very sort of long term view on that.
Now with team allocations, for those who don't know, I'm assuming that means they received MDB tokens, and is there a vesting period that they're forced to hold those tokens before they can sell any?
Yeah, well, to be fair, we haven't done any forced vesting. It's more like an understanding. We've got a mature team that is, we can govern ourselves, right? I think if, a second you're having to pick through the blockchain in the project, you probably should be thinking about selling anyway, I would say, because you probably don't trust them. And if you're going to operate in a business like this, and you need to trust the people you're working with. So for us, we have a memorandum of understanding that it's minimum 6 months. But at the same time, it's not a hot topic for us, to be honest. I'm more interested in seeing the supply locked up.
Yeah, and I personally don't have a problem with team tokens. I know some, people in the community might be like, say whatever, but to me, if you go work for if you start up a company, you generally have, and it's almost like a publicly traded company in a way. You normally have some kind of equity, and then also it gives you that skin in the game, like you were saying, where you want that to be worth more. So it's an incentive to have employees and stakeholders on the team itself to work harder, because the harder they work, the more it benefits them.
Yeah,
I think it's a great motivation structure, honestly. As long as they're not total, what you used the term mercenary earlier. somebody who comes in and is just like ruthless, and is maybe ethically, questionable, and just dumps.
There's also a maturity aspect, right? I think I don't know. This is a little bit controversial, but I'm a trustworthy person. I'm experienced. I've been around the block from a life point of view. Would I give 21-year-old me $1 million? Not a fucking chance.
Not a fucking chance. No.
Right?
No.
Not
I'm sorry. I have a lot of younger viewers. Dude, I'm sorry. When I was 21, dude, I was passed out drunk in the gutter, right?
I'm not an evil person, but I'm also like pumped full of testosterone. I also, I'm just hungry for life, and also, you haven't got the battle scars of just going through life a bit. So I don't think it's a terrible thing to say that.
Just like signing multi-sigs on your phone while you're blacked out playing beer pong at a frat party in college,
exactly. And to be fair, one thing that you don't see is the stress is huge. Yeah. The stress is huge. Imagine your daily life is dictated by this chart and a community, which is, can be very volatile depending on the performance of the project and the market. And that just takes a lot of resilience. And resilience, some young people were very lucky and they just have it. But nearly everybody on the planet learns that, right, by going through difficult situations and sometimes screwing up. And that's part of growing up. So,
I agree. When I was 21, like there are some people obviously who mature much quicker, but like my focus was like, am I going to pass engineering school, right? Like and then outside of that, it's like nothing else mattered. And if I failed a class, like it only really affected me and maybe like my immediate family, but it didn't affect potentially thousands of people who I would have, be stewarding their capital. And I think it's a heavy responsibility for project owners and team members to recognize and respect that responsibility of stewarding potentially millions of dollars of other people's money. And, it's something that, like, I guess it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. So I'm with you there. And I know somebody's going to give me crap for like, hey, I'm 19 and I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm super mature. I could do it. And I'm like, I'm sure you could, but I couldn't when I was 19, probably. Even though I was a serial entrepreneur, but I was running I was like an independent contractor writing software for a few companies. I wasn't managing millions of dollars, right? Yeah. Okay. So, who else is on the team now? Since we're on that topic, do you just want to tell me who else composes the team?
Yeah, well, if you go into our Discord, you'll see the team channel. We've doxed all of the main players within the team, from the Millionaires Club manager, community manager, Discord manager, operations manager, and our CMO, Mina, who's a bit of a celebrity now in the industry.
I've spoken with Mina a lot now. She kind of got us in touch with each other.
Because you blanked me. They'll call you something in our Discord because you blanked me, YaBonks. And then a lady reaches out. I hope your missus doesn't watch these videos, because then a lady reaches out and all of a sudden we've got ourselves a video. So, but I'm not a cynical man.
Wait, what did I do? I
reached out to you multiple times and I was like, hey, we're really responsible. These are the facts. And
yes. I know. I told you I'm so busy. Like we had started conversations multiple times.
Then Mina contacted you and you found the time. It's brilliant.
She's very charming.
A British charm. Maybe I am a bit of a dick sometimes, to be fair. So I'll take that.
I looked actually back at our conversations, and it's like we started talking, and then it was obvious both of us got caught up doing other things and got busy, and the conversation just like. And then like a few weeks later, we'd pick it back up. Like, hey, how's your project going? Good, cool. And then like, it would just keep going like that. And then Mina's like, hey, we need to get all of us on video sometime and do a thing. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And Mina even said she might be open to doing a doxed video AMA. I don't know. It might be rumors.
Get to do it. It's got to be coming. I think she... she's released sort of a picture, like I say, all the team's docs and stuff now, and I think she's a great character. So I think maybe your turn to be tenacious, because I think you'll definitely get plenty of people come along if you've got Mina Doxx in live. So
I've been watching the community chat over the past couple weeks, and yes, I think Mina is a star. She has a big fan base already. Like people.
Do you know what though? She's so, and this is why we get a bit touchy. Someone comes in the server, and you've got somebody who has completely smashed it out like for 4 months. Mina herself has only just got a salary, right? And and that's her own choice as well. She's also invested in the project, and you get people come in and they're derogatory to people that you can see that are that just really care about delivering. But I see it now. When I joined the industry, I remember meeting people and thinking, why is he such a dick? Yeah, and then after dealing with people who are dicks for a couple of months, you then maybe set yourself in a way where you assume that people are going to be like most people, and so Mina's a massive asset, and so are all of the team. Actually, it's really a unique environment in our community.
Yeah, and I saw somebody kind of coming at her today, even in the Discord, and I even said something like, "Hey, dude," I didn't even say anything. I put an appropriate GIF for the situation, and I don't know. I see it in so many different projects, especially like you said. Most of these people are working super hard for their project that they really care about, and they care about the community too. But then you'll get hecklers in there, people a lot of times hiding behind profile pictures and fake names, who feel like it's it's fun or easy to throw mud.
Real marketing, wasn't it? Imagine what this project would do with some real marketing. This is my second YouTube interview today.
I know.
Imagine what you do if you did some real marketing, and somebody spends she realistically spends minimum 12 hours a day, minimum. Yeah. But it's not as simple as that. It's not like you check in, check out. You wake up and you go straight on your phone in this industry, and it's the last thing you look at when you go to sleep. So, the real hours, I think, is probably mind-boggling. But,
it's mind-boggling.
It's also an absolute pleasure. So I'm not going to play the victim either, because, we chose this life.
Yeah, no, it's mind-boggling. Like my work day is about 20 hours long right now. I'm getting 3-4 hours of sleep a night, and it's just like, I'm not going to stop grinding out here till I can ensure my wife never has to go work another job she hates again, and I can take care of all these animals at my animal sanctuary. So I'm just going to keep going. You look pretty
tired hugging that chicken, to be honest. Or is it a rooster?
It's a rooster. Yeah, the community sponsored rooster rescue. That was awesome, man.
Are you a South Park fan?
Of course.
Have you seen the Chicken Lover episode?
Oh gosh, I would say remind me what happened in it, but is it? I might get this demonetized, even though I don't really care if it's monetized because it's a sponsored video. But what's that?
I said I can't believe I'm saying it live, like you're recording this as well. But yeah, the Chicken Lover episode is one of those where like you're going, wow.
Oh gosh, yeah. Okay, I'm remembering now. Yeah. Also, like the kind of reminds me of the cat pee episode too. Like they're just out of control. But yeah, man, I love the animals out here, but obviously in a different way. and I'll do a video tour of my animal sanctuary again at some point and put it on my channel, and you can see what I'm talking about. It's like paradise out here, and all the animals, like, they came out of horribly abusive situations, and now they're like living in paradise, basically getting all the finest organic produce and treats, and like all the belly rubs and hugs. And
what was that guy? Was it the Tiger King or something? What was he? Was it
Tiger King?
The Tiger King. You're like that, and on-chain's like Carol Baskin.
Yeah, that bitch Carol Baskin or whatever. She's actually 2 hours south of me, I think. I need to go check out her big cat rescue. I haven't been there yet, but it's on my to-do list. I don't think I'm going to be visiting Tiger King anytime soon, because I think he's in prison.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he ordered a hit on Carol Baskin, and
you come across in the documentary as a guy that probably enjoy prison, but that's maybe a conversation for another time.
No comment there. So let's see, what else do I got for you? Big thing that my community is concerned about with any DeFi project. A lot of my audience are DeFi enthusiasts. As you know, I have a pretty large following of real DeFi people, not just randoms. And they throw around a lot of money. And a lot of them are concerned about security, especially with some of the stuff that's happened recently, where a lot of us thought there was a project with doxed owners and KYC, audits. The code was fine. There was no rug code in there, but still an undoxed developer who tricked a few of the team members, according to the official reports, apparently tricked them on the multi-sigs and everything, and minted himself some extra tokens, and had just been slow rugging and selling off those tokens the whole time. Walked away with like $400,000 plus, and it really hit the community pretty hard and basically destroyed the project. Now, with all that being said, is everyone on the team doxed and KYC'd?
Absolutely. Yeah, look,
Wow.
just to head this off very quickly, we our smart contracts are coded and developed by an organization who's a registered LLC in the US. We're independently audited, and then contracts are managed from outside. So there's no conflicts of interests. You come from a software background. It's not complicated stuff, to be honest. It's just you just need some structure.
Yeah, just due diligence and put in the time. Like, it's the code's actually pretty easy to understand, and if you know what to look for, if you've just done a little bit of research on like what the different rug methods are and like exploits and reentrancy vulnerabilities, which like automated audits can cover the reentrancy stuff, and then basically you just look for weird transfers that shouldn't be in there, or like ownership like modifiers, like who can call what function publicly, that kind of stuff. So I have not looked through your code personally. I did not have time in preparing for this. Just like I went through all of your documentation, your mechanics and white paper, and got ready for this and the production stuff. So I would be interested in glancing at some of your smart contracts at some time, but that's cool. So you said your contracts were written by an officially registered LLC company who has probably a lot to lose if they, there's a lot of liability for them there. And you said everybody on your team is doxed. I think you are the first fully doxed team I have dealt with. I have not. The closest one was the one I was talking about, where like almost every team member was doxed, except for that one guy. The one developer wasn't doxed, and he was the guy who, pulled it off and ran away. So
everybody, everybody that's within the team in terms of day-to-day operations is doxed.
Awesome. And are they KYC'd as well? I think I think this might need to be updated in your white paper. We talked about this a little bit before.
We were just bigging Mina up as well.
What's that?
We were just bigging Mina up as well. Look at that.
Yeah.
now you're tearing her apart. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Mina.
It's pretty recent, to be fair. We were KYC by Obsidian, but it's not a necessity now with the Doxx team.
Okay.
So that's no longer the case.
Gotcha. And I know this is kind of a contentious question, but are your team members from I guess how I should say in the industry for KYCs, are they from tier 1 countries?
Yes. Okay.
So there are legal.
But they're not, to be fair, it's irrelevant now anyway, because with Doxx, everybody operationally for us is either from an EU country or the US.
Okay, that's my question was, are they in countries where there are authority organizations, legal frameworks in place to actually pursue legal action in case of any kind of, malicious actions or, criminal activity if it were to happen. So that's good though. You guys have your asses on the line here legally, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good to know. Do you have audits on your smart contracts, and if so, with whom?
Yeah, with Solid Proof.
With Solid Proof, okay. And did I pull that up? I don't think I did, but
there's the audit there. There's MDB audit.
Oh yeah, good eye. So If anybody wants to see the audits, you can find it in their white paper under official links, and it will link you here to the solid proof. And I have looked at other solid proof audits. I've actually been to their website and confirmed that they aren't a fly by night like pop up thing that some projects make fake audit companies.
Yeah, people make excuses anyway. The most common rug sort of method nowadays is this, lots of wallets, and what do you need? You need 5% of supply to completely destroy a project, maybe. Yeah. So it's not that much, and it's crazy actually how little scrutiny there is on the operational process in sort of executing a contract. That's actually a much bigger risk as I see it. It's very difficult. You can't really lock that into a smart contract. It's very difficult to do so.
And that's something I talk about a lot, is most projects' code will pass the audits most of the time. Obviously, there are a lot of tomb forks and stuff like that people launch with and try to rug lately, at least. But most bigger projects that I deal with, they are, their code is fine. They pass the audits. Every project basically has centralization issues, but at the same time, they're technically not issues unless the team is shady and untrustworthy, because centralization in a project like this that's experimental, you're trying new things, you're managing basically a hedge fund that's that trust fund that's in the Phoenix. There's some manual stuff that you as a team have to make decisions on the fly based on market conditions to make adjustments for the betterment of the protocol and for the community.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're unforkable basically, because it's not about the code. It's it's the operational delivery of what we do has a much greater impact on the health of our protocol than the code within the contract.
And that's something that I think a lot of people might see in an audit, where an audit says, potential centralization issues, but really there are pros and cons to that. Like I said, if you don't trust the team and there are centralization aspects of it, maybe don't invest in it, don't put money in it. But if you do trust the team and you think they're going to steward the capital appropriately, then centralization might be a good thing, because they can steer the ship through different market conditions and sell-offs or different things like that. So not always a bad thing. And the other thing you mentioned is, lately the sneakiest rugs haven't been through the code. They've been through multi-sig manipulation, minting tokens outside of the regular documented channels, and then or using multiple pre-sale wallets.
Or even up front. I think one of the most common ones that's completely missed, and people are complicit in it, because if they look at the detail, it's there in black and white, is we're going to raise this much money and we're going to put half of it into the protocol. So if you've invested in that project, they don't even need any jiggery pokery in the code or any secret wallets or anything like that, because you signed up to that. So now they're getting a website that costs $200,000. Now they need all of these marketers that cost $50,000 a video, and then when people want to start redeeming their cash out of that protocol, that's when the chart goes boom. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I see actually is it's just about money in, money out, and that's the one question that blows my mind. People just don't ask is, okay, how much money is being raised and how much of that is going to be accessible in the protocol, whether that's in a fund or whether that's in the liquidity pool at launch. And the gap between those two is going to cause you some pain.
Yeah, I also think pre-sales are the riskiest projects for me to cover, and I actually charge a premium to cover any pre-sale project. I think a lot of people know that out here, because the risk to me and my viewers, if somebody were to mess up that pre-sale or just do what you said, just pocket half the money and just give the community or the liquidity pool or whatever else, the other half, and then it's just I don't know. So there's so much more risk and so many more things that can go wrong, where like the amount of time it takes me to like vet a pre-sale project and look at the code that they deployed after the fact and see where the funds actually went. It takes me so much longer than an established project that's been running already. Like you guys, it's a lot easier for me to just kind of be like, okay, I can just check the code. It's already deployed. Where I'm going blind on a pre-sale and I'm trusting that I'm not going to get totally screwed and represent, something on my platform that could totally screw my audience. So like there's a lot more that goes into pre-sales, especially as a marketer out here, where like I have kind of a duty to try to be as vigilant as I can with how I filter out some of these projects. Luckily, the past 2 projects that have been pre-sales that I have agreed to work with were like established people out here. Like I don't want to mention other projects on this AMA for you, but like they were kind of heavy hitters out here, and I have some faith in them. But like,
what was the percentage of the funds they raised that they put into the protocol, YaBonks?
So, oh gosh, dude, I'd have to pull up my notes for the exact amount.
Curious. Yeah, no, we're not here to talk about other projects, but that's the one question that everybody should ask, and they don't.
Yeah, and I in my videos I did cover the breakdown of where those funds, where they say they went, and like that's something that I think everybody should kind of look at and ask. Like, if you see a $50,000 marketing video, be like, is YaBonks really worth it? Right? Like, and if you need a $50,000 video,
you down to 40, so we got a bargain.
Look, we're friends now, so I'll give you a deal, 35,000, and we're cool, man. Seriously though, if anybody needs a $50,000 video or a $200,000 website, hit me up. Right, I will do that in a second. Oh man, yeah, no, it's crazy some of the stuff you see out here. Yeah.
Cool.
So let's run through a few more of these questions. I think that was a good discussion though for a lot of new people who might be listening, who might not understand the backdoor dealings that go on in projects and even in marketing or website development. Because like some of these websites I could make in 2 or 3 weeks, and some of the you're right, man. There's some crazy stuff that goes out here for operational expenses. Anyways, so okay, one of the big questions.
We're going to lose the audience. They're going to think we're going to send them to sleep. Let's quick fire.
Quick fire. So we talked about this earlier. You always talk in your documentation, and here you talk about the word safe a lot. That word to me is just like, that's a scary thing to say in DeFi. Why are you so confident that your project is safe for participants?
Oh, it's safe is a relative word, right? We're certainly a lot safer than most protocols that you'll find, and many reasons that are structural. So there's no leveraging. There's no there's no sort of flash loan going on, and we're very strict in terms of the way we manage sort of team and internal processes, and at the same time, most organizations just really the structure of our protocol and the way it works financially offers a degree of safety that is very difficult to find in crypto.
Okay, so with that being said, what do you think are the biggest risks for participants in your project?
The biggest risks? I think with anything there's risks. I think existential risks are a big thing, naturally, because you've got, we have a reliance on an industry. Regulation is a factor. For one, actually, I don't fear regulation so much because I'm somebody who's prepared to sort of like put my reputation on the line for the organisation. So for me, actually, I think regulation would probably remove 75% of my competition. So I don't have too much of an issue with it, albeit it'll probably bring in a load of new competition as well. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. I think obviously the market is a factor, right? It's really difficult because you can play uber safe with the fund, but at the same time, you also need to make some reward to invest and buy supply and burn it out of existence. So, that is a very real sort of that is a very real risk and something that you have to manage every day. And apart from that, I think that's they're sort of yeah, they're the things that I suppose we put a lot of thought into.
Okay. So with the whole existential side of the risks, and the centralization aspect, would your project still be able to function if any of your team members left the project to do something else, including you or any other members of management?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And can
Absolutely.
your project survive if this bear market continues for a while longer?
We could go for years. We could go forever. It's there's no, I'm somebody who's run, organizations and large teams through financial crises, through pandemics. I understand how when you're faced with difficult circumstances, you have to make difficult decisions and be proactive and have a plan. So, when the market goes difficult for us, we quickly pivot, and we always have like a plan B, C, D if we absolutely had to. So there's no way I'd get into it unless we could offer that sort of level of assurity.
Okay. And what is your long-term vision for this project? You just said it's going to last forever. So what's your long-term vision?
And I think we always put a disclaimer on it that what you learn in the next 12 months. If you know where you're going to be exactly in the next 5 years, what it means is that you don't have your eyes open for the next 12 months. You should be learning on that journey, and that should be shaping your strategy. And but we know sort of like the fundamental building blocks that we're going through at the moment. So we're sort of phase 3 of our roadmap already. The team have been absolutely crushing it, and we're launching our B2B applications. About to announce a couple of new partners. And then it's about scaling that and then moving into real world applications long term. And as we do that, there's also as you diversify and you scale that organization, there's also a question of, okay, well, where does MDB go? And I think MDB certainly is in a learning mode at the moment. We've learned so much over the last few months. And ultimately, our plan will be to bring in more automation into the system and to accelerate and do more of the same so that it's a sustainable, ethical, positive influence on this industry that needs plenty of that.
Okay, yeah, I agree. We need more of that. Absolutely. And I do appreciate that your whole team is doxed and in tier 1 countries, at least right now, since there's no regulation. I do appreciate that fact. Although there are great developers all across the world in all these other countries as well. It's just in terms of accountability and everything like that, it's hard to, after the fact, if somebody does something, go after them. So your project, like I said, is the most doxed. And there's one other project I recently just worked with who is fully doxed as well. And they're also they're running what appears to be a very legitimate organization, running it more like a real business rather than just some pop-up fly-by-night DeFi fork. So this is it's very interesting. Do you have I know you said you're very focused on like 1 year, 12 months out, kind of, because things change so fast out here and you have to be adaptable. But in like 5 years, just taking a guess, how do you see MDB in this space? How do you see yourself positioned? I mean, I know it's hard to tell because this is like the future and it's all evolving so fast. But with all that being said, where do you see MDB in 5 years?
Yeah, so I think there's a divergence of kind of two pieces to the organisation. Really, like I say, we've got we're building this B2B side, which will then be a segue to real world sort of applications that we're looking to develop, and in 5 years that will be a very different type of animal, but that will also be sort of an income driver and a revenue driver for MDB. MDB as a token itself. Ultimately, what do we want? We want the supply to burn down a lot, and we want the fund to perform and to grow, and to continue to create wealth for as long as we possibly can. And I think as we learn, then it'll also give us the opportunity to bring in more automation into the process, and in 5 years it should be doing what it's doing today. It should just be bigger and even more sustainable in 5 years than it is right now.
Awesome. And since we were in rapid fire question mode, there were a few questions that I missed that I really want to ask. Some of them come from my community members. And so what is the Millionaires Club?
So Millionaires Club is basically, if you own, it's around $500, although it moves around because it has to be pegged and the price obviously moves every few minutes. So its headline is $500 worth of MDB held, but it could be plus or minus that depending on where the price is at any point in time. And you get access to Millionaires Club, which is like the private suite. There's giveaways in there. We've got a mindfulness coach actually. She did a session yesterday, so she'll do sessions on like well-being, sleep management, managing stress and anxiety and things like that. They're all very relevant in this space.
Yeah, I need some of that.
Yeah, she's brilliant as well. She's like a really straight talking Aussie, so she'd be like, Steve, you got to sort your shit out. And it's really good. But there's other things as well, like we have projects come along, do pitches. They then give away like whitelist spots and all sorts of things. So you see it there. Come in the community, ask a few questions. Which a few weeks ago was $2,500. Today it's $7,500, and that gets tougher.
Can you rewind about 15 seconds? You froze there for about 20 seconds. So you said, come in there and ask some questions, and then
come in and ask questions, and learn from the community about the benefits. I think that's it's a lot to try and absorb. This call's gone on for like quite some time. It's very difficult to absorb that much detail for anybody. So come and talk to the community and get a feel for it and see it for yourself. The VIP role is very difficult to get. So you need to own 1 million tokens for VIP. Wow. And which wasn't that much a few weeks ago. It's 2.5K. Now it's 7.5K. And because we're deflationary, it's just a harder and harder club to both join and stay in. So the VIP is a pretty big flex role. And when we launch Infinity, when we launch something new, we always give first access to the Millionaires Club as well. And when we launch Infinity, there'll be a larger pre-sale allocation for Infinity for VIPs. There'll be a significant step, and there'll always be first access to whitelist for Millionaires Club as well.
Awesome. And what is the Gravity Project? I've heard other people in dying projects say, get MDB in here and get this into the Gravity Project. What does that mean?
Yeah, sometimes it's used as a bit of a joke. I remember the BNB was going down and people were like, Gravity BNB. But, one thing that I recognised was that you get projects who naturally reach the end of their life. Quite often they have lots of resources within them, team, community, some liquidity that might be left. And there's an opportunity there to give that project sort of a second chance. So we're just about to complete our 4th Gravity project. We're able to offer sort of using the liquidity from the project. It's not a profit-making exercise for us, but it does give a second lease of life to the project that ultimately that we use that function.
So how does that work? You go in and you make an acquisition for all of the leftover assets, and then what happens to those assets, and how does that community benefit from it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we try not to use the word acquisition because we're not acquiring the business, right?
Okay.
And it's very tricky if you do that because you're acquiring its liabilities as well as its assets. Right. Ultimately, it's we'll typically do some due diligence. We'll talk to the team. And we'll try and negotiate something that is fair for the holders. And it also has to be fair for MDB, right? It can't be one side's getting shafted over the other. There's some projects where the expectations of the team are just completely unrealistic. It's really, they're like, okay, we've got 120K across our protocol. And we're like, okay, so your total liabilities are like 110K. So i.e. the supply that everyone owns, less all contract wallets. And they say, yeah, but we want 50K because we went through, 4 weeks work to get to this point. So, we will push back hard on those situations. So as long as it's reasonable and fair, And the right way, we always suggest that a project does it, puts it to a vote. Oracle did it impeccably recently, actually. They put it to a vote. The overwhelming answer was yes, we absolutely want to do this. And now we've got more happy holders from that project, and we compensated them. We have to look at the maths of it. Quite often in these projects, it's a bit close to the line sometimes, so maybe we just accept some of it as a bit of a marketing cost. Right. But typically the goal is to try and set up a compensation scheme that people can claim, and they receive the equivalent value of what they held in their previous token. Albeit it's very rare that somebody's coming across from a project and whilst they might have, I don't know, $100 worth of that token, probably the health of that project is a lot less than the health of our project. So they're normally very happy to be here.
So they would get the equivalent value approximately in MDB?
If possible.
Okay. And then the real quick, Phoenix, and you talked about the rising Phoenix, but Phoenix Plus.
Yep.
Phoenix Plus has a much higher APY, and what exactly is Phoenix Plus?
So Phoenix Plus, in simple terms, is a stable backed asset with higher taxes. It's 2% in, 2% out if you sell yourself. But you can also be cashed out of it. So the contract could force you out, basically. And if you are forced out, then you pay a slightly higher tax because you'll pay a bit more tax to the Phoenix, and you'll also be cashed out into MDB Plus, so you would have the tax into MDB Plus and the tax out. So if you go in and out yourself, the total loop will cost you 4%. If you go in yourself and get booted out, then it will cost you 6%. But because of the taxes and the system, very similar to MDB Plus, means that the APY is higher. So, the Phoenix just kicked out a couple of people. They were obviously absolutely delighted. But they had actually made a profit. I think they were up like 4% in 11 days. And anyone leaving then drives up the APY, basically. But also the contract is able to, call it an inferno, it's able to cash everybody out if it so wishes, if the APY is just becoming too stagnant.
So this is almost like a game where
exactly
you buy in with a 2% tax, and then you try to sell out before the APY becomes stagnant, because at any point randomly in here, the Inferno could automatically cash you and a bunch of other people out. And if you are cashed out, you get hit with another 2% transfer tax because you get paid out in MDB Plus if you get cashed out in the Inferno automatically, right?
Basically, yeah.
And so what I'm seeing in the chat is people talking about, buying in, holding, and then as soon as they see it start trying to stagnate, they try to sell, take their profits, and then...
Or some people are just like, I'm just going to go to the end. But they could also get picked off individually. There's, that's the gamification side of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to note here that if you get forced cash out via the Inferno, you get paid out in MDB Plus. So like I'm personally looking at taking up an MDB Plus position. So part of my DCA strategy in a gamified kind of way for fun is I might maybe buy Phoenix Plus and then sit there and hold it as long as I can and see if I can't make up that 6% difference before it cashes me out, and then I have the MDB Plus I wanted anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And also you've got to remember that people will try and get in after the Inferno, because if you're in right at the start, you'll see that curve shoot up really quickly as capital flows in after you, and then you'll see the curve go up again as capital flows out. So that's just the game. The worst thing that could possibly happen is that you buy into it, you're the last person to buy, no one sells after you bought in, and you carry a 6% risk. Albeit, if it cashed you out and you had, I don't know, $500 and it cashed you out into MDB Plus, you could leave that for a month and you'd make a lot of that 6% back anyway.
Interesting. Okay. So I might do that. And the last, I guess, question that I missed earlier is what do you think is the best strategy for traders to use in your project?
Yeah, it's a good question. For traders or investors? What do you mean?
Well, maybe both. Is there a best strategy that would be different for investors versus maybe
trading
kind of a swing trader?
But Yeah, trading's difficult with 25% taxes in and out, but it's not impossible, right? You can see, if you've been through that curve since we launched, you could have quadrupled your money picking those points, but it's very difficult to do that. So I think when Infinity comes out, that'll be much lower taxes, much more volatile, and will offer trading opportunities. From an investment perspective, I think it's about what sort of risk do you want to take at the moment, and I think if you want all of the upside potential of MDB, then obviously throw all of your money into that. But if you want to maybe often a sensible thing, right, like almost like when a project launches, is to put in some and save a bit in case it drops, so that you can then DCA. So you could take a split strategy. That's probably what I would do. The NFTs are also really attractive. So we've got a mini mint on Sunday, then we'll be launching. We'll be announcing the rewards that are going into the NFTs. It's going to be like crazy. Like people will be going wild for the NFTs. There's no doubt about it. Then the NFT will have supply locked into the contract, but you can also buy the NFT, and then it's also a secondary asset that appreciates over time as MDB itself appreciates. So it's just a different asset.
So are these the Phoenix Fire Club NFTs that I've been seeing?
That's it.
Okay, so my buddy Hazy, he and I have been DMing for a few weeks just about DeFi in general. He's a funny dude. I like him a lot. And he has like a sticker of like himself next to one of these birds, one of these, I guess that's a phoenix. And he's just like, which one would you rather have? And I once I started reading through your white paper and documentation and getting into your community, I finally get the joke with what this is. So
that guy at the front there, that sold for $10,000. That one.
Wait, this one?
Yeah, that's the king. That's the top boy. That one. There was three one-of-one legendaries. One of them was put in the trust fund. One was actually given away, so someone in the community won it, and one was auctioned. And that one at the front there was auctioned and went for $10,000.
No way. That's crazy.
But it looks amazing, to be honest. I'm not. I'm more of a numbers than a visual man, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, and I'm not much of an NFT guy. I'm just starting to dabble with them. So utility NFTs, though, I think are kind of a cool concept rather than just the artwork side of things. Which, these are kind of cool looking, right? But like utility wise, I see like lifetime rewards here. So if I were to
the holder of the NFT will receive MDB every 30 days for the life of the contract.
Really? And is there an ROI period on, say, like you buy the base NFT, one of these? Is there like an ROI period?
I think so. You can see there that we put an estimate, not financial advice, all of that stuff. We put an estimate of 30 to 70%, and it depends on a number of factors, right? I think it depends on the burn, the price, volume. All of those things have an impact. So as the contract burns down supply, the NFT contract will own a percentage of MDB supply, and anything over that percentage, so i.e. if you've burnt down supply, the contract now owns a larger percentage of supply. Every 30 days, it will distribute that out to all of the holders of the NFT.
Okay, interesting. So is this still going on? Are you still in your minting phase for these?
Oh, we did a 24-hour mint. We sold like 200 of it. So they're very rare. There's only 500, and we sold 200 of the first 200 of the 500 that stopped the mint. We've got a mini mint this Sunday, which maybe YaBonks was going to talk to you and see whether you fancied joining our live stream, where we're going to do the rewards reveal. We're going to do a mini mint of like 5 minutes because there's a lot of demand for it, and we'll also announce I don't know whether Mina's announced the time period, but there will be an announcement about the opening of the mint, but also you'll get to see firsthand the value of MDB that's being put into the contract, and also the first round of rewards will be distributed. So it's a good event. We've got to celebrate the first trigger of rewards on Sunday.
I might be open to that. I like DeFi events and stuff. Maybe we can come up with something. Do you ever do do you ever offer giveaways or anything like that? like with MDB or NFTs?
Yeah, we do.
So
we do. So I think Austin's got 5 NFTs for Operation Give Back.
Nice, awesome. Well, I'm going to try to negotiate for my community, I guess, for that one. I'd probably do it anyway, just because I like you. And
if you can get one for your community, it's icing on the cake.
If you could hook up one of my community members, one of my viewers, with one of those, that would be so cool. And it'd be icing on the cake, like you said.
I'll speak to Mina. She's the boss.
Well, regardless, I'll probably I'll probably hop on that event just because I like that kind of stuff. Is Austin gonna be there, or Hazy?
I haven't. I'm thinking on my feet. I haven't even spoken to Mina about it, so she'll probably see this video and be like screaming at me. So yeah, I'm just talking on my feet. But let's see. I need to speak to the people who are in charge of these things.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I didn't get you in hot water there. So I appreciate you sharing some of that alpha with me of what's to come. This is cool. I don't have any more questions right now. Do you have any other closing remarks? Anything you want to let the viewers know before we wrap this up?
Oh, look, we're very genuine. Whilst I like to have a lot of fun because life is too short, we're very serious about what we do. And, even when I was in my career, I often would build teams or departments or businesses I wanted to be part of, right? I'd spend more time in it than I'd spend with my own family. So I'd want to go to work every day and actually enjoy my existence. And it's the same with our project. So, what we wanted to do is build a project that as an investor, I would want to be part of, because you get lots of things other than just making money. You also get, community and relationships and all of those fantastic things, and a lot of fun as well. And that's really what we're building. So, we wanted to build something that is what most people come into this industry looking for. So, look forward to seeing you in our server. And we can guarantee that you'll have a lot of fun.
Awesome. And for transparency's sake, because I also think transparency is important out here, I probably will buy Phoenix Plus, or maybe even if my wife doesn't murder me, I might even pony up $500 for MDB to get into that Millionaires Club. And so just to let anybody know who's watching my wallets and stuff like that, I probably will in the next couple days start taking up positions in MDB. I do like your project and your team and everything like that. So, and like I said, I have lots of references from my friends out here, James, Austin, Hazy, and a lot of my community members talk about MDB. So it's only right if I probably add this to my portfolio. So transparency, everybody knows I'm probably going to buy some. So
cool. There you go.
All right. Well, Danny, I appreciate you taking so much of your time. I know this went way over, but I had 2 pages of questions for me and my community. This was great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks.
Yes,
I'll talk to you later, and I'll probably see you at that minting event.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Well, I'll speak to the boss, but it's definitely a good idea. All right, take care, mate. Cheers.
All right, see you later.